What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined by my trusty co-host Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, how you doing this week, man?
Well, doing well. Got news of Donald Glover and Phoebe Waller-Bridge making something together. Very
Hell yeah!
exciting. That makes my whole week.
Do you think it's a Mr. and Mrs. Smith remake?
Sounds like it kind of is as like
Yeah.
a TV series. So as part of, I believe, Phoebe's deal at
Mhm.
Amazon. So pretty
I
exciting.
I trust both of them to make something at least interesting, if not excellent. So, um, yeah, I was thinking out of all the like TV creators right now, I mean they're at like the top. They're probably like top five for most interesting and innovative showrunners. So I feel
Yeah,
like the expectations for the show are probably going to be off the charts whenever it drops in 2 years.
absolutely, absolutely. We know Atlanta season 4 is soon, coming soon. But yeah, really exciting. It's nice to see Phoebe Waller-Bridge back doing something because I feel like it's been a little quiet since Fleabag season 2 wrapped up and she won awards for it for a year,
Mhm.
like back in the lab. But yeah, it's like those two, and then Michaela Cole, depending on what her next stop is, I feel like it's gonna rise up those ranks as well.
For sure. This is a Star Wars reunion too. Little Lando and
Yeah, that's good.
forgot what the robot was.
Um,
What was the
oh
name?
fuck, what was her name? The droid
That
L5. Nah, I
Yeah, it's
forgot.
like L5 or something like that.
Um,
That performance at first, I like really grated on me, but I caught some of Solo recently. I think I just like threw it on Disney Plus when I was like
right,
doing notes one day, and it's definitely grew on me a little bit. I still
L3. It's close.
L3. There you go. I still think that performance isn't necessarily my favorite Phoebe Waller Bridge, but
Hmm.
maybe I also just have more affection for her in general. So who
Yeah,
knows?
right, right.
Um, but if you're listening to this and you're interested in hearing our take on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you should hit that subscribe button because we're also going to be talking about a lot of other things. And today we got some music and some movies. Yes, we
Hmm.
have some movies, but to varying degrees of quality. We're gonna start though with a K-pop sensation, Chung Ha, who, if for those of our fans who may not know who she is, became popular with the group IOI back in 2017. She was on the survival music show Produce 101, where she came in fourth and became part of this group. Um, and they broke up, and she decided to go on her solo tour. Had one EP before this, but now I want to make sure I say this name right because I'm not a great Spanish speaker. Carencia,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. Cadencia, her first album, hour long, like over 20 tracks. Dave, is this album a banger?
Yeah, there's some bangers on here, no question. Going in, I didn't have a whole lot of exposure to her music. I think I'd only heard her on her track "These Nights" on "Head in the Clouds" too with Rich Brian back in 2019. So like I knew the name, but she actually had signed 88 Rising since then, recently, November 2020. Clearly, with the eye to expand in the West, obviously really big already in Korea. And in the process, I was watching some of the videos and stuff, and you can tell like her Korean label as well as 88, they're very invested in this solo career, and this is like the long-awaited solo full-length project. And I was actually surprised to see how much it jumps around with sounds and stuff. Like there's a lot of like traditional K-pop stuff on like the
Mhm.
EDM production side of things. You know, like the lead single "Bicycle." It's a pretty conventional K-pop banger, but it's great. But then there's also like some, as the album title might suggest, there's some Latin infused ideas, like on Dement. Was it a Dement? Uh, Demente.
Demente. Yep.
Yeah, some reggaeton meets K-pop right there.
Yep. Yeah. The Latin influence on this really surprised me because I think like the first couple of tracks you kind of get what you expect from a K-pop album, and I'm not saying that in any way to diminish the quality, because I think Bicycle, I think Flying on Faith, really
Yep.
good. I even liked
Nice.
is it Luce Sai Cut Stelai? That song
Yeah,
also
sure.
really stood out to me. But then you start getting into some of the, like, I don't know, more funky stuff, more eclectic sounds on this. You mentioned Demente. I thought that was really good. I really liked the song with Rehab. I think he's a Dutch DJ.
Yeah.
Dream of You, which actually reminded me a lot of a Dua Lipa song from her most recent album. Around the chorus, Dave, I'm gonna see. Do you remember "Break My Heart" from Dua Lipa?
Yeah, yeah.
Do
I think I
do
do.
do 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 do.
Yeah,
Like
there you go.
they mimic like the same thing around the
That's
chorus
funny.
here, which really stood out to me. Um, yeah, I was really impressed with this album, and you know, to say that a quality album came out of a K-pop star is like one of the least surprising things we can say, because after Blackpink, I think dropping a really strong album at the end of last year. Um, Obviously, BTS just dominating the world right now. Um, Chung Ha seems like the next one in line to just completely be dominating the charts. Um, what did you think about, like, the pacing of this album, or I guess like maybe the construction? Because it did feel like it jumped around a lot, and they kind of
Mhm.
used these like side D tracks, or side C, side A, side B.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you think about just like the whole construction of it?
Yeah, so you have those 4, like, instrumental tracks breaking it up, so that leaves you with 16, like, full-length songs, full
Mhm.
songs, and I guess as a way to, like, demark the genre jumping around, but in general, I always kinda struggle with, like, hearing that, like, Slowthai, talk about him in a second, he also had, like, 2 distinct halves on his album, but, like, I have a hard time, like, noticing it if you don't,
Yeah.
shove it in my face with, like, delineating it in the track list, but, um I guess it makes sense for this because she's gonna jump around, so like it's like a way to organize, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I found them to be really engaging, the tracks, because they weren't just like these like gentle instrumentals that kind of were like, oh, we're transitioning. They were like hard EDM songs. But I also wasn't sure if I felt any cohesion necessarily to the tracks, and maybe there is, and I just need to go back and like read the lyrics and read what she was going for. But I didn't feel like the construction really made a lot of sense to me. But I just think in general, the overall like way that she meshed these different sounds together, there's even some like Afro beat on parts of this. um
Right.
just really, really impressive. Any other moments, any other songs that you wanted to shout out?
Yeah, you mentioned Flying on Faith, which I really liked. In addition to Bicycle, I also liked Bother Me as well. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, because it jumps around a lot, I actually think this warrants multiple listens because there's a lot to listen for.
For sure. um Two that I wanted to shout out real quick: Stay Tonight, which is just like a traditional K-pop EDM banger, and Chill, which had this like really cool like layered production around the chorus, where they had this choir and they kind of like layered the choir around with like the synths kind of like booming around it. It just sounded really, really texturized, which I just really appreciated.
Hmm.
So those two tracks stood out. We'll definitely have at least one song from her on our Nostalgia Best of 2021. Check the show notes for that. Let's move on though to the person you just mentioned before, Slowthai, and dropping this is his third album, I
Second
guess.
album, he also had a bunch of EPs.
So
TYRON, his
his
first
first,
name.
yeah, his first album, self-titled, was
No, no, no,
very
not
well received.
self-titled.
Oh, that
Nothing
was
Great About Britain, 2019.
you're right. I'm sorry. I was getting that confused on the Spotify tracks. My bad, people. Run that back. Nothing Great About Britain. Um, got quite a bit of notice back when it
Yeah.
dropped in 2019. A lot of acclaim for it. I think the scope of what he was rapping about on this gained a lot of notoriety for just having, I think, a lot to say, and some really interesting um, observations, but also packaging it in a way that I think people were really impressed by, kind of took people by surprise. What was your take on Nothing Great About Britain?
Yeah, we didn't end up reviewing it, which I regretted just because I just got to it late. Like I feel like this Slowthai is the name I started seeing, and then next thing you know, there's a lot of love for this album. And I think he had timed it to originally drop when Brexit was supposed to happen. I think delays made it so that didn't actually line up. But yeah, as the title would suggest, you can tell he's not someone afraid to, call out Boris Johnson and like speak his mind about that kind of thing. And to hear that, I think, frankness in terms of like political lyrics from someone so young who also is so energetic and like so like crass at the same time, definitely felt fresh. Like you listen to him, and like I think sonically he's on the grime sort of things when it comes to UK rap, but because he has like that like higher register, and I don't know if this is he's from Northampton, so like I don't know if like he has an accent. I don't know, I don't know if about the English linguistics, but like
Mhm.
he sounds a little different than your average, UK driller or other grime artist, right? So like there's something about him that just kind of like catches your ear. And then again, on top of that, like he's actually was having ambition with his lyrics, and uh, he just kind of was edgy. That was his thing, right? But he's
Mhm.
backing it up with the lyrics, and so yeah, I like that. Like, he did some songs like Denzel Curry, and we
Mhm.
talked about him last year on the song "The Mean A Track," "Pressure My Palms." Like
Yep.
he makes a memorable feature when he pops up. But if you read any reviews about TYRON, you'll notice any press about Slowthai right now is acknowledging what happened to him about a year ago at the NME Awards, where he just kind of made a fool of himself and got like kicked out of the award performance after winning an award at the night. And like,
An award
definitely,
for Hero of the Year,
yeah, he
nonetheless.
definitely took it on the face. You could tell, but he
Yeah.
seems to have come out of that with a better attitude. He said he doesn't drink anymore, stuff like that. So that's good to hear. But and I think the person he was harassing, the host at the award, seems to have you know let it go. So that's nice.
Yeah, it was a comedian who was hosting it, and she actually pretty quickly seemed to um, be understanding of it, at least publicly. And it seems like the way he's been scrutinized and viewed since then is certainly a contributor to the conceptualization of this album. I think because not only is this, I think, a bit more introspective than the previous or the first album,
Hmm.
but I think you can kind of see in the structure, like you talked about, there seems to be the first half, which is, disc one, a lot more like bombastic. All the titles are capitalized. And the second one seems a bit more, I don't know, introspective, toned down.
Yeah,
Everything's lowercase. And
James Blake shows up.
yeah, he's kind of, he's kind of going for those like two sides to, or multiple sides to a person type thing. Did that work for you?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. He also is someone I think just because he has a pretty quick flow more often than not that I like to listen to his tracks more than once. I just feel like when I first listened to a lot of his songs, I just kind of listened to the sound of it because he again there's just sound kind of like an edge to him. So like to hear him actually kind of like strip it down and be more inward focused. Again, nice contrast to the first album where he was much more outward focused about his home. Um, I think it's cool to see, and just in general, like kind of like the trajectory of this coming out of the scandal at the Enemy Awards. Making most of this in the pandemic, but not all of it. Seeing where this came up kind of surprised me, because like listening to the singles like Maza with ASAP Rocky and I think the James Blake song also came out. I didn't know what to make of the album from those singles.
Mhm.
But it's pretty interesting. Again, kind of uncommon for like other UK rap stars.
Yeah, for sure. I think his sound is very unique, and really incorporates a lot of different. I don't know. I think rising sounds like there's definitely some moments that sound very grime, but then there's some that kind of remind me of some of the tracks we heard on "King Is Dead" from Kendrick Lamar. A couple of years back.
Hmm.
There's Kenny Beats shows up
Oh
for a
yeah,
couple of tracks.
Kenny.
Darko is all over this, and not knowing much about Darko, it sounds like they're pretty good collaborators, and
Hmm.
The sound really works for him. Like even when it's toned back, it all sounds really, really good. The production on this is really
Mm,
top notch.
mhm.
Like a song like "I Tried" is so different than anything in the first seven tracks, and I felt like that was maybe the standout one for me. That sounded like something more in the line of like the R&B, like triumphant sound that you kind of hear. I don't know, coming out of Chicago, I guess, more so than like the grime sound. What tracks it out to you? I guess in the first half and then in the second half,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's so different.
Yeah, I think there's actually been a lot of talk about "Canceled," which was, I think, like, the last single to come out featuring Skepta, the second track, and I think that was interesting because, like, lyrically, it's, like, really, like, over the top, you know? If you listen to how Slowthai's been talking, like, he doesn't have, like, any animosity to what happened to him, he's really owning it and has grown from it, but, like, a song like that's really over the top, you'd think he's all like, "Rah, rah, rah, cancel culture sucks, blah, blah, blah," you know? And, like, the lyrics are, like, kinda wrote like, I feel like what Skepta's saying about like you can't cancel me, you know, it's like I don't know, but it's still an amazing flow from Skepta. All his
Yeah,
features are fucking fire these days, so I still like the track.
I know.
Um, and it's a nice follow up to the song "Glorious" on "Nothing Great About Britain," another great Skepta feature.
Yeah, and that track had me doing the Larry David gif. Like on the
Yeah,
one hand, I was like, I don't know if I really jive with these lyrics, but it just sounds really good flowing together, and like it's kind of hard to hate the song. Um,
Glastonbury.
but I think in that first half, that run of Vex to What to Dead is probably my
Yeah,
favorite three. Like it just
that shit's
flows
great.
together so well, and Slowthai just sounds fucking awesome on all three of those. You liked those too?
Yeah, I think what's the weird one to me because like that beat, I was trying to figure out how to explain it. It's like like chimes almost,
Yeah.
like the way it's like looping through it. Definitely like a cool production touch, no question.
Mhm.
But yeah, he really brings it on those. Those are I think like the types of slow time moments that reward multiple listens because you probably pick up on additional lines and lyrics when you do that.
Yeah, for sure. And what about the second half of the album? What songs stood out to you there? I mentioned I tried, but any others?
Yeah, yeah. At the end, the Feel Away with James Blake and Mount Kimby is pretty interesting to me just because,
Hmm.
as you might suggest with those features, it's definitely slowing it really deep down for
Yep.
slow tie, and he usually is at 100. So to hear it like that, I was like, oh, this is different, but it still works. So I appreciate it. Um, Terms was kind of interesting to me just because I was like, that Denzel Curry feature is like in the background. I think like
Yeah.
he doesn't have a verse, so that's kind
Eh,
of disappointing to me. And I think Dominic Fike's all right on the hook, but that one kind of like I listened to that like back to back. I was like, did I miss Denzel? Was I like thinking about something else? Like, was it me? No, it wasn't me. He's just barely on the song.
yeah. No, I really liked NHS. I thought that track was probably one of my favorites, probably my second favorite on the whole thing. But also the way that the whole thing ends on ADHD, which the first half of ADHD I thought was okay, but then he comes in so aggressive and strong at the very end. It almost like it was like a shot of adrenaline right as the album was wrapping up, and I think that's actually a really smart way to end it because it makes you want to go back into that intensity. This is definitely an album that I think you could just kind of put on repeat and run all the way through a couple of times, and it would flow together really well from start to finish So I'm really impressed with this. I think out of all the rappers coming out of England right now, or the UK right now, like Slow Tie seems to be probably the one that I'm most interested in moving forward. Who would you pick for that? Skepta?
Well, I love Skepta so much. Yeah, I
Any?
think it's like thinking about people who are more on the cutting edge. I think of someone like J Hus,
Hmm.
just because of that fuck, what was it called? Not Afrofusion. The way he would kind of meld
Yeah.
lots of sounds, bringing that into just more traditional rap. I liked a lot of that. We talked about Big Conspiracy last year. Um, and then yeah, I think probably the most consistent probably Stormzy, but I also been bumping a lot of Heady One these days, so
Hmm.
there's a lot of options, which is great.
Yeah, it's a cool movement over there right now, and not to tie these all in together, but the UK also seems to have probably the most exciting rock sound right now too. So
That's right.
um, a lot of good music coming out of that part of the world at the moment. So
Hmm.
check out this album and check out the Spotify playlist again. Dave, I'm gonna pass you the floor, or give you the floor, I guess, to talk about Dead Pigs.
Yeah, so this is a kind of unexpected drop where Dead Pigs is the directorial debut from Cathy Yan. Cathy Yan, most people would know as the director of Birds of Prey, the DCEU movie from early 2020, the best one, of course, because it actually was quite better than Wonder Woman 1984, despite what we might have expected a year beforehand.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, this was Cathy Ann's first movie, and it was really notable because she got hired by Warner Brothers to make Birds of Prey after making just one movie, Dead Pigs, which played at Sundance way back in 2018. The thing is, no one got to see Dead Pigs. This had not gotten US distribution or any distribution outside of China since Sundance 2018. It played in China in January 2019, but either way, no one has had a chance to see this for 3 years unless you lived in China, where did get a release. The movie is set in China, um, and that is, I think, just a really fascinating thing. And Kathy Ann's done a lot of press about this, about like her career, and I think this is actually an important movie for people to watch because this is much more instructive of the movies she will be making moving forward, as opposed to Birds of Prey, which we know is of the greater, Hollywood machine. But like the fact that she would be kind of this most stereotypical thing, right? Gobbled up after a hit indie movie made a superhero movie. You love that indie movie so much, yet you wouldn't actually put it out for her. Like no one seemed to want to put it out. Like it's just really weird. And I think just kind of a symptom of where Hollywood is at, where it's like, I don't know if we can, we can release this movie. Like it kind of stinks. But either way, it's
Yep.
now out on a Mubi, MUBI, which is the like art house streaming service. It's kind of on the smaller end. You can access through Amazon if you wish. They also have Martin Eden, which was a notable indie flick from 2020 as well on there. So yeah, you can access that there now on on Mubi. Dead Pigs finally available to the rest of the world 3 years later. Like I remember when Birds of Prey came out, I was like, yeah, Dead Pigs. No one can see it yet. Would love to see it.
Hmm.
Heard it's kind of good. And a year later, here we are. Um, it feels weird to say like no spoilers about a movie from 2018, but like really no one has seen it still, so I'm not going to spoil anything. But I did like it, and I think it's cool because it kind of like weaves all these storylines together, connecting characters. Some relate to each other, some encounter each other. These plots all kind of unravel and connect, and it's all centered around a fictional, I guess, retelling of the dead pigs incident in the Shanghai area in 2013, where like thousands of dead pigs, were in the river, and like people were like, what the hell's going on? In the water, is the water bad? All that kind of stuff. Um, but the movie, having that as your backdrop in like modern day China, and having all these storylines weave together as we go, you know, deep in the city, more rural areas, you kind of get all the things you might want from like a kind of like a weaving movie like this. Um, and I think it's really good. Um, I think the most notable Asian actor would be Vivian Wu. She's in a lot of stuff. On the U.S. side, Zazie Beetz is in this in a small role.
Hell yeah.
Um, also Mason Lee is in this, notable as the son of Ang Lee.
Mm.
But yeah, I would, tough to really say much more, but I would definitely recommend. I think it looks awesome. It doesn't feel like a first feature film, it's like really well done. And like I said, I think it's gonna be instructive of Kathy Ann's talent moving forward. So that's exciting. Um, and impressed for this, Kathy Ann did say that she's actually directing an episode of Succession season 3. So
Hell
that's
yeah.
also cool.
That's fantastic. I think it's funny hearing you describe this movie and then thinking about Birds of Prey and even something like Succession. I think that it makes a lot of sense that a movie like this would get her opportunities in a movie and a show like that, because all three of those all three of these things seem to have multiple characters that have these stories that need to kind of be intertwined and pulled together. Like Birds of Prey, kind of, Harley Quinn being at the forefront of that, but like pulling in the
Yeah,
rest
sure.
of the gang in some way. And then Succession obviously has usually like three or four storylines as well. So pretty cool to hear that. I can't wait to watch it. I just didn't get to it this week, but I have my movie subscription or my free trial
Yep.
already going, so the clock is running on me for sure. Um, and I'm excited to talk about it. Maybe we'll circle back at some point or check in maybe mid time this year.
Yeah, I was thinking for list purposes, I guess it's a 2021 movie. No one got to
Okay.
see it till now, right? So
Yeah, I guess so. Everything is so screwed up in COVID. It was funny because I was like 2018. It was only 2 years ago. Nope, going on 3 years. It's kind of crazy. People still really haven't seen this widely. Why don't we talk about a movie that was seen widely, though, Dave, or somewhat widely? Music, which is the directorial debut or feature film directorial debut from Sia, the pop singer who,
Mhm.
I think I would say I really like her music. I don't listen to her albums necessarily, but the hits are really, really good. And
Yeah.
I like her stylistic choices with her music videos. The Shia LaBeouf, Maddie Ziegler, I don't know, thread throughout a lot of her music videos I always found pretty interesting.
Mm.
Um,
And
but
unfortunate bookend to that Shia piece of late,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
this was
No,
a
she's
movie.
she's she's definitely interesting because she kind of like pops up, goes away, then like
Yeah.
every like other single seems to be like really big, you know?
Right. And I think when I think of her, I think the first place I kind of go to, she's in that Gaga vein where she has like a very specific style, like look.
Yeah,
She's her face is
aesthetic.
always covered. She has these outlandish costumes and dresses, and yeah, I think definitely there's an aesthetic to her. Not on the level of Gaga for sure, but um, I was interested to see music because I was like, see ya, like most of her stuff. And I gotta be honest, the part about music that probably is the best is the music videos. And
Yeah.
then everything outside of that is pretty not great. Yeah. So just to kind of, I guess, like give those who haven't watched it or those who did, just a quick breakdown. It's about um, a siblings, music and Kazoo, who is just referred to as Zoo. Music played by Maddie Ziegler, and Zoo played by Kate Hudson in this movie. Zoo comes in to take care of Music, who is an autistic teenager. After the grandmother who was caretaking for them died, and it's kind of about their relationship. But there's a lot of problems with this movie, to say the least. Dave, what was just your overall like thought after the movie finished?
Oh, it's abominable, man. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. And that's the thing. It's like there's some really offensive and problematic and
Yeah,
ill-advised choices that we can get to
totally.
in a second. And then there's also just the film itself, which I don't think is that good anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing if like there were these really offensive things, but the movie was so good, and then everyone has to like in their own head be like, do I care enough? Separate the
Mhm.
art and the artist. No, it's not. That's nothing. That's not even in the conversation. The movie is bad,
Yeah.
and when the movie is bad, you're just stuck on all these bad choices,
Hmm.
and it just completely colors the movie, and then you can't get by it.
Yeah. I laughed before because I was trying to be very careful with how I'm saying it, but yeah, it's not good at all. And I think let's start with the probably the ill-advised performance choices. Casting neurotypical actress dancer Maddie Ziegler to play music is really tough. And the choices she makes in portraying an autistic teenager really border on like minstrel. Um,
Yeah,
throughout it just
just
over the
stigmatizing and
yeah, over the top.
stereotype typical. It's bad, real bad.
Yeah, any
Caricature, all that.
whatever you would think to like make fun of someone with autism is basically what she kind of does in this. I don't think that was her intention, obviously, but it really comes across as offensive to that whole community. And then to go beyond that, there's multiple times in this movie when music is restrained
Mhm.
for being upset once by Leslie Odom Jr. and one time by Kate Hudson in this movie. And there's no warnings for anything like that. And I know many people within the autistic community, um, it was like re-traumatizing to see and experience
It's
that.
also like not what people
Not
do.
best practice. Yeah,
No.
it's like literally a last resort if people are in danger. So it's just a really poor choice. And Sia has in interviews talked about that. She didn't even think about this, or it wasn't her intention. Which is even, I think, more startling that she decided to go through with a movie and make the choice to have music be kind of the plot driver. I mean, she's kind of the MacGuffin of the movie
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
Kate Hudson Zoo, which is also, I think, pretty offensive. And as a choice to like just make this
Yeah.
character with a disability just like a plot
Well, it's
driver.
it's also a classic trope. It's like you're
Right.
different, but you're special and gifted,
Exactly.
whatever it is. It's we've seen that before.
But to not even consider these sorts of things, how the portrayal of a character in that way would be, like how traumatizing those sorts of events on screen could be, just as a
Right.
total miss.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, hey, it's not that Sia can't necessarily make a movie about an autistic character, but it's that she clearly didn't do any homework
Hmm.
and consult anyone and
Yeah.
give it her best effort. So that's what you get. To make matters worse, apparently an autistic person was cast to play music and then was dropped due to some difficulties.
Yeah.
Apparently, and then they passed
Yeah.
someone who's not autistic. Like that makes it even worse because you knew you really shouldn't cast a normal functioning person. It just comes off as like ableist.
Totally. And Sia also talks about the way that she kind of went about creating this movie was, I kind of saw it in my head and I'm just going to go out and like kind of know what I want it to look like, know how I want the scene to be, and I'm going to just like kind of tell people to do it that way. She didn't want to learn Final Draft, which is this app that screenwriters use. And it's just like,
Yes. It's
you know, maybe there's a reason people go through with these things so that, you kind of getting this out on page. Maybe someone's going to read this and be like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have this portrayed. Maybe there's a different way to go about this. And it just feels like a lot of like corner cutting and just trying to like get an idea out without actually fully fleshing it.
hmm
Like, what do the music videos truly add to this movie? I said that they were probably the best looking and sounding parts of the movie, but even that, like, um, for a person who is autistic to view some of the music videos in this, like even the first one, there's like strobes, there's really loud music choices that can be completely overstimulating for someone in that community to watch. It, I just don't know how much any of these choices really add up to anything other than a really bad movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's notable too. Like when the movie's starting, you see a pop up for Warner Music Group, which is Sia's label. It's like, huh? Warner Music Group associated with a movie?
Right.
Like usually when there's soundtracks to movies, you don't see the ad for the label who put out the
Mhm.
soundtrack. Kind of strange. Um, but again, to make matters worse, the Golden Globes, which we always say are a joke, Hollywood Foreign Press has no credibility whatsoever. No one even knows who they are. They nominated music for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and Kate Hudson for Best Actress for Motion Picture Comedy at the upcoming Golden Globes. It's like just baffling decision that is no other way to put it. Clearly, just focus on how we want Sia and Kate Hudson at our award show. We always know they like are quote star fuckers. That's what they're into,
Mhm.
famous people, because it's clearly not the art. There's nothing redeemable about this. Like even like the best comedy or musical delineation, which is not like separate all the dramas, the higher minded stuff. There were better choices than
For
music.
sure.
Many. Like it's a joke.
Yeah, it's really just disappointing all around. And I I was just like thinking as you were talking, I was like, these are my least favorite types of reviews to do, because at least when a movie's bad, as long as it's not offensive, it's like we can make fun of it, we can have fun. Like you can't even really take any joy away from this movie other than maybe you like the music from it, and that's just
Hmm.
like after everything else it's attached to, it's like just really leaves a gross feeling in your mouth. So, not a big fan of this movie. I would say don't buy it or support it.
Negative.
Um, but I'm hoping Sia learns from this, and maybe we'll see something better in the future. Let's hope, or maybe we'll get a good album out of it. I don't know.
We
But
can hope.
anyways, let's move on to let's do Falling next. The Viggo Mortensen debut as a director. Pretty interesting that we get to see a directorial debut and a Viggo Mortensen debut, and I see them very differently in terms of movies. I don't know
You
about you,
think?
Dave. Yeah, but Falling looks at Viggo Mortensen as a son of a older man who is dealing with autism or autism. Jeez, I'm so stuck on music. Dealing with,
Alzheimer's or
yeah, Alzheimer's,
dementia,
dementia,
something. Aging.
and kind of looking at their relationship as he tries to support his aging father. Um, and it's a difficult relationship. So Viggo Mortensen plays John. His dad Willis is played by Lance Henriksen, and also played earlier or in flashback scenes by Sphere Gudnason. Gudnason, and he looks just like Viggo Mortensen. There were like parts where I had to I was
Yeah,
actually wondering if they just did the de aging on him.
I
It's
did it a
kind of
few times
crazy.
too.
Um, but I found this movie to be pretty good. If I had to give it a rating at 1 to 10, I'd probably put like a 6 or 7. I think there's a lot of moments that are really, really strong in this movie, and then just some choices I was left kind of confused by. Where do you stand with Falling?
So I thought, yeah, Severe Goodinson was the guy who played Borg in Borg vs. McEnroe.
Oh, wow.
Knew
Okay.
we had seen him before. Um, yeah, Falling is a really tough hang, in my opinion, and I think it's well intentioned, but I, not that I'd say it's sloppy, but I just it feels awfully one note, and I don't really understand like the narrative investment the audience is supposed to have in this.
Mhm.
Like I like Viggo Mortensen. Criticisms of Green Book aside, he's a good actor. He should be directing movies at this point. Why not? That's great.
Yeah.
But this one just made me raise an eyebrow a few times. Like he said that this is like loosely inspired by him caring for his parents when they were older. Yet he's not a gay man. So the fact that he wanted to be a gay person,
Hmm.
married gay man with adoptive daughter in this film, like I think that was clearly done to highlight the kind of obviousness of like the bigot that is his dad in the film.
Yeah.
But like I think if you have a tighter screenplay, you don't need to do that. Make that
Hmm.
choice.
Yeah.
So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But either way, take that to the side. I just think Willis is just kind of irredeemable the whole time. Like he's a piece of shit in the flashbacks. He's a piece of shit as an old man who's losing his marbles. Why am I supposed to care about this relationship? I'm surprised they even have a relationship still.
Hmm.
Like he's a bad dad, he's a bad husband. Case closed. I don't get it.
Yeah. I think I was a little bit more. Um, I don't know. I wouldn't say sympathetic to Willis, but I think I understood more how he kind of got to the point he did. I mean, it seems like there's probably some mental health issues. He seems quite paranoid in a lot of the
Hmm.
movie. I mean, not
Yeah.
only when he's older, but even the younger times that you see him. I think it's interesting because the movie gets to a point where you kind of are just like, I just have to listen to this guy berate anyone that's different from him. I mean, making fun of gay people, making fun of anyone that's not American, making fun of hippies, people that aren't
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
uh, salt of the earth type people. It's just he hates everything, and
Right.
um, the moments that you're kind of I think waiting for come at the end in the form of his father comforting him when he didn't feel like he could take a shot at a buck in a clearing, or his father kind of saying like, that was actually my fault. I should have fixed that bath a while
Yeah.
ago, and I made some more coffee for you. And those moments just don't feel like enough in some way, but at the
No
same
way.
time, that almost I almost appreciated that it felt very like ultra realistic to dealing with someone like this person. I
Sure.
think there's a lot of people like this, not necessarily in this situation. And I agree. I think the choice for him to be a gay man was just to like create more inflammatory tension and maybe didn't need to be the choice. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the choice. Like it's there are gay men who have this sort of relationship with their father, I'm sure.
Hmm.
But I do feel like those like release moments aren't necessarily as satisfying as I'd hoped they'd be, but they were still really nice. I'd say. I
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I guess it was also weird because I felt like the movie kind of jumps around at points. Like you get that scene where Willis disappears from the diner or wherever they're eating, and he goes to the water and he's having this flashback, and then he's
Hmm.
in the water, and then all of a sudden he's just sitting across from Laura Linney, and they're having a conversation. He's ripping into her children, and
Right.
I was just like, wait, what? Like I wanted to kind of
Yeah.
understand what the fallout
I
was
mean,
there.
to me, I would have liked more, or sorry, I would have liked more Vigo and less flashbacks.
Mm,
I feel like the flashbacks kind of like were predictable. Like as he's growing up, you kind of get the beats, and again, because Willis is pretty one note, nothing is really that illuminating. But Vigo, for the most part, just kind of like taking it from his dad, not giving in, and taking the bait until the end when he flashes back out. That's really it. He doesn't actually have a lot to chew on. You know, like he's that one scene where they both kind of go at each other, but it's kind of over fast, and that's it. And I think if we had more time in the present, you would have had more scenes where you would see the other side and understand this love beyond like, oh, I made some coffee. Sorry for being a complete dipshit again last night. Like
hmm
I think it's just kind of awkwardly paced, and the main goals of the film have a hard time landing because of that pacing.
yeah, yeah. I think there were some parts I really thought were well done. You mentioned like the scene where he gets to kind of like yell at the dad, and that I think just like the brewing of it all, like the fact that it really is like how much can this adult character take before he just kind of like lashes back, and he finally did, and you're kind of like, geez, thank God. But like, um, I do kind of wish that we had gotten maybe one more,
Yeah,
I don't know, satisfying scene. It just kind of felt like you're kind of left with this like, man, fuck that guy type feeling to
yeah,
it, and yeah, like you said, there's no redeeming qualities to Willis at all. So Laura Linney gets like a really the quick scene, but
and again, she's doing the same thing as Vigo, just like not taking the bait, just
mhm.
completely entertaining his terrible behavior for no reason. At least the kids are like, fuck this,
Yeah.
like,
I guess, like you said, it would have been nice to see a scene, I guess, where you kind of see Vigo as like a younger adult, kind of being like, "Man, I hate this guy, but like I feel like I need to like be there for him in some sense." Like kind of
mhm,
bridging that gap because you really see like the flashbacks end when he's a teenager. Um, Also, I thought it was really interesting, and I guess very telling of the Willis character, that kind of harkening back to that, like what do you think, or like what do you see before you die type thing. He just sees himself with his first wife having sex, nothing to do with his kids, which like completely I mean completely on par for that character, but just kind of
yeah,
like, man, that's so gut wrenching that he just really didn't seem to care about them like that.
right, yeah. I mean, I feel like there was one thing that I like was entertained by the most. It would just be that Willis had a really like crass sense of humor. He would talk about taking shits and stuff all the time. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, what do you say? Pinch a loaf? He's like, I'm gonna go pinch a loaf. Like, it's like, "That's nice." Like, sure.
When
Um,
he left his glasses and he like brings it closer. He's, where'd you leave him? Where'd you leave him? The shitter.
yeah. Yeah, I guess that was like some of the levity, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Also, I really appreciate Laura Linney's daughter just being like, "Yeah, I'm not afraid of this guy." Like,
Yeah.
it's like nice,
Right.
good. There's no reason to be. That seems pretty
Right.
harmless. I
Right.
guess he
Right.
does like actually try to beat up Viggo Mortensen at one point, but I don't know. Following, I would recommend it because I think there's a lot of like crumbs here that Vigo is going to be probably a much better director in the
Hmm.
future, but it's still a
Also,
pretty good
shout
movie.
out David Cronenberg cameo as the doctor
Hell
randomly
yeah.
doing
Yeah.
the colonoscopy.
Sure. Uh anyways, why don't we jump to all the boys forever and ever
All
or
the boys I
more.
loved before, always and forever.
Always and
3 of 3.
forever. I think it's actually just to all the boys always and forever.
Is that
Actually.
right?
Yeah, they took out
Oh,
I love before. Now it's
it's a
just
good
to all the
idea. It's a
boys.
short title.
Yeah. And they're back, folks. The third installment. Um Lana Condor, Noah Centineo, and all those other quirky characters.
All those other kids.
Yeah. And and we're back talking about them for the third installment. Um, Michael Fim- Fimo Fimignari.
Hmm.
I wish I was
Directed the
better at
second one.
pronouncing names. But yes, back to direct again. When we talked about P.S. I Love You, I Still Love You, the second installment, I think we both were kind of like, this is very much just like a teen romance movie, and there's not a lot here. Did that change for you with Always and Forever?
I think Always and Forever is definitely better than the second one.
Yeah, I
No
agree.
question. The second one was like spinning wheels of the first movie, but just way less satisfying and just felt annoying. And there's choices that a lot of times from Laura Jean that just like don't make sense and it's hard to get behind. You're just like, no, like I don't want to do this. Like the best part about the original movie, the first movie,
Mhm.
is that casting, right? Like Lana Condor, Noah Centineo are both perfect for these roles.
Yep.
Lana Condor is great as a romantic comedy lead. Noah
Mhm.
Centineo, great as like that imbo, attractive, well-intentioned dude. Maybe not the smartest guy in the world. They're both
He
great.
gets into Stanford, dude.
We'll get there. The third one though, at least like gets slightly more intelligent because again,
Yeah.
their senior year. They're thinking about colleges. They're talking about some real life decisions, right? It's like, do you do you use your high school relationship to dictate your future plans and where you go to college when you're going away to college? It's an important thing. A lot of people have made that mistake. People continue to make that mistake.
Yep.
Um, the movie kind of ends with them trying to seek it out, but they don't make the mistake. They at least both do what they want to do.
Mhm.
So I think the message is good. And like, yeah, there's a lot of like cheesy stuff again. A lot of like really stereotypical New York go to New York City tourist stuff. It's all good.
Yeah.
Um, but like again like it's a teen comedy. It's like can't be like too critical. It's like for teens, not for me.
Mhm.
Um. So yeah, it's better than the second one at least. But I think the first one's
Yeah.
definitely the tightest.
Yeah.
For like teen rom coms go, like that's much better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is the last of the three movies that are going to be based off of Jenny Han's 2017 novel, Always and Forever, Lara Jean. But um, I think I like this one the most because there's just like a lot happening, you know. But
Yeah,
I
for
feel
sure.
like that almost works against the movie. Like I texted you this. Um, by the time we kind of they break up. Sorry, spoiler if you're watching this. They break up at one point in the
It's
movie.
happened a bunch of times already in the
Yeah,
movies.
exactly. And I just was like, okay, there's probably like gotta be 15 minutes left where like they'll miss each other, they'll come back together, they'll make their decisions on college, and that's it. But no, we still have Peter having to sit down with his father. We have Lara Jean and her family getting together for her father's wedding. There's like just still so much to happen at that point, and we had already gotten like I don't know, like so much plot. Like they went to New York, they had all these things happen. They, prom proposal, her getting rejected, him
Mm.
getting. It was just like, oh god, how much more can there be? But
Yeah,
all the little bits were a lot of fun. Like I loved seeing them running around New York. I thought that was fun. Made me just really wish New York was New York right now. Like
yeah.
not
Oh
COVID.
god,
I thought there were
they
some
cover some
really
ground
fun
too.
things.
Midtown
Oh,
or Manhattan. It's not just Times Square or anything.
what was this trip like? Just like take kids to New York and let them run around? I don't.
Yeah,
I
so
don't understand.
they're from Portland, Maine, I think it is. So it's a bus
Yeah,
trip, far bus trip. But
it's a long trip.
yeah, I guess schools do that, right? But like I didn't know if
Yes,
schools did that for like sleepovers.
that was
I
that was
only knew of like
intense.
from like greater New York areas like day trips kind of stuff. But
It, I don't know. I thought it was like I never did this, so I thought it would they would
same.
at least have like I'm gonna go to the Met, and then afterwards you'll have like 3 hours to go do whatever you want. But they were just like, here, you're in New York City, we're
Oh
gonna go
yeah,
get drunk. I was like,
it didn't make
cool.
much sense. No.
Loved the chaperones though. Just go get drunk and don't do shit. Um, but yeah, I thought this was pretty good. For these movies. Any moments, scenes, things you really liked?
I appreciated the continued reverence for K-pop in this, notably in the
Mm,
second one. Blackpink's "Kill This Love" drops at I think a really wise point in the movie. And this time you got Girls' Generation, I think, when they're in Korea and being the movie, and then Blackpink again with Pretty Savage. So I appreciate that touch. That's nice keeping that going. Um,
my favorite music choice was when she gets rejected from Stanford and they do like this slowed down cover of If You Want to Be My Lover. And I just was like,
Sure.
what is happening here? It was just so ridiculous, but
yeah,
pretty
um,
funny.
I just had a few notes about lines, like when they're talking about both going to Stanford, being in the Bay, and Noah's like, Peter Kavinsky's like, oh yeah, we can go to all these famous bakeries in San Francisco. We'll go to Fisherman's Wharf all the time. I was like, bro, you don't go to Fisherman's Wharf if you're a local in the Bay. That
Mhm.
is the biggest tourist trap in San Francisco. That is a uneducated thought. It just made me laugh. It's like people don't go to Fisherman's Wharf if they live in San Francisco.
Right.
Also, you said it. Noah Centineo got into Stanford, but not Laura Jean. What? Because
Yeah.
Stanford, yes, they have athletic scholarships, but they also have a high standard for their academics
Academics.
for their
Yes.
athletes. So it's very unrealistic because Peter will tell you he's not the smartest guy. Also, in general, like two kids wanting to go to Stanford together is just very unrealistic if you look at the acceptance rates of prestigious schools like Stanford. So I was like, huh, this is a bit of a stretch. Maybe
Mhm.
most teens don't know that. I don't know, but I was like, hard to find believable.
Totally. And I also one love the apartments in New York City that all the NYU students stay in. Like just some of the like nicest
Yeah,
dorms, I guess, or like I
gotta
don't know.
say too, like
Had a
that
lot of money
party,
though.
that party they go to is like has to be a school sponsored one because that's no way that's just some random like
Right?
normal people party like
Yeah.
on some
So
like loft where it's not packed at all. Like what the fuck was that?
I know, so random. And then like that band, I was like, what's happening? But yeah, also I didn't understand why we needed to give Peter this plot with his dad. Like, has
Oh
that been?
god, no.
I don't remember that in any of the past movies.
I think that's
I
the
knew
biggest
he. Uh,
flaw of this third film is that there's too many of those side plots.
yeah.
Like anything with their friends, I just didn't remember where those threads left off in the from the
Right.
first two movies, so I didn't really follow any of that at all.
Mhm.
But yeah, like Peter's dad, like was that a thing?
I
I
don't
don't know if that was
remember.
a thing.
Yeah, I guess people who probably are a lot more into this trilogy than we are will be like, yeah, of course. Like, I think I remember. I think I remember knowing that his dad wasn't in the picture, but I didn't never remembered him being like super upset about it. But then that kind of comes back around. Also, seeing the guy who played his dad with he was in Bly Manor, and I'm like, Netflix has their actors, that they just like keep
Yeah,
going to the well for. I love it. But I guess that scene was okay. It was hard to like take Noah Centineo as like a really serious actor. I just kind of see him as like the affable like lover boy kind of. And
yeah,
I didn't feel like he really brought it in that scene necessarily, but maybe I don't know. Maybe he's saving that for He Man. I don't know.
yeah. That's the thing too. Looking forward, like I think everyone involved probably is fine to not make more of these films. I don't know. You want to do a Kitty spinoff with Anna Cathcart or whatever? Fine. I actually wouldn't mind that, I guess. But
Sure.
she's kind of
Okay.
funny. But like yeah, like Lana Condor, she's been cast in a bunch of other like rom com stuff, Boo
Mhm.
Bitch and Moonshot. And then Noah is in Black Adam, cast as He Man, as you said, and was just recently cast in one of the myriad GameStop stock Wall Street Bets
Yeah.
movies. So it's kind of interesting that it seems like Noah's getting more work than Lana, but I feel like Lana's definitely the more winning presence,
Yes.
better actor through these three
Yeah.
movies. Uh,
How
Not
old is
not concerned about her
how
career or
old is
anything,
Noah
but
Centineo? He's gotta be a little older, right? He's only 24 and she's 23. Crazy. Also, he was
yeah.
born a day
Again, I
after me.
first knew who Lana Condor was because she played Jubilee in some of the Fox X-Men films, and she didn't have any
Mm,
lines because her that biggest scene was cut.
damn.
That's how I knew
Well,
who she was.
and look at her now. I
Yeah,
mean,
honestly,
probably
that was a tough break, and
yeah.
then it turned around for her.
Ah, man, I don't know. This is a good ending to the trilogy, I'd say. I think it was satisfying to see them go their separate directions, but want to try to make the relationship work. And yeah, it's just a nice ride, I guess. Like low stakes, just kind of fun to check in every once in a while. So here we are.
Here we are.
Any last thoughts?
That's quite enough.
Yeah, I want to watch some good movies, Dave. What should we watch next week or talk about
Well, we're
next
gonna
week?
get good movies, brother. On Friday, we get Nomadland on
Yeah.
Hulu. Very
Woo.
exciting. At last. Also, a hype Netflix movie with Rosamund Pike. I Care a Lot.
Yeah.
Supposed to be quite good as well. And then on VOD this week, we get Supernova, the Colin Firth, Stanley Tucci romance film.
Nice.
So, a trio of movies that are supposed to be much better than the ones we discussed this week.
Awesome. Well, we'll be talking about some good movies next week. Hit that subscribe on youtube.com/nostalgiapod and go to Twitter and follow us. And anywhere else they should go, Dave? SoundCloud.com.
Yeah. Check the show notes. Spotify Best 2021 playlist is there. Follow that
Yeah.
shit.
We'll see you next week.